Yeah, on the top floor. 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 On the top floor.
Welcome back, my family, to the Huddle. I like saying amazing, but I guess I surround myself with amazing people. Um, this gentleman that we have on today, I came across his path by chance, but I think it was the plan. I was an intern at this construction company, and Mike Sims, who we have today, he was the project manager on the site. I had never been on a construction site, never knew anything besides you look one day and it's a clear land, and the next day you got some block, and the next day it's a building we walking inside. That's all I knew about construction. But watching Mike go through how he operates, the knowledge, the respect, the involvements, those things caught my eye as an intern, wide-eyed, nose wide open, trying to understand what I was into. And he actually, and I don't know if he believes me, but he inspired me to actually come back after my football career was over and actually see what construction could do for me in my life and what it can pull out of me. So today we have the great, amazing Mike Sims to join us today. Say hello to the people, Mike.
Hey, everybody. I think Wallace gives me a little more credit than I deserve, but glad to be here.
Look, that's the even more impressive part. Like, if you sit with him, you realize how much knowledge he is, but he's crazy humble. Like, everybody in the office, everybody probably in the state of Georgia, Atlanta area knows that Mike Sims going to do his thing, but he's the most humble person that you'll come across. And I respect that part about him too.
Well, I really appreciate that. I mean, it's been a crazy ride. I mean, when you came out there for the first time and, we started getting to know each other, I knew you were going to do special things, man. I just wish you had, stuck around a little longer before you decided to go play football again. But
I only had so much time, so many routes in these knees. I had to go spend them. So
I understand.
But I came back to you, man.
That's right.
So, Mike, we are going to dive into Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. Two Navy SEALs, great experiences, very strong men. I went and looked in a little bit more about each one of them. Very strong men. I got major respect for what they went through and what they're doing now to help people in the civilian world. But something about their book, Extreme Ownership, made you say that you wanted me to read it. What was that?
I mean, you hear a lot about, leadership and different books and different seminars to go to. And a lot of them are kind of cut and paste of one another. And this is the first book that I've really come across on the subject that really sucked me in and made me think, man, some of the things that they are saying are total common sense, but I do them every day.
Yeah.
And how could I be stupid enough to not be implementing some of these things already? But just having that reminder and simplifying the whole process down the way that they do and showing you, the and I've never been in the military, but some of the stories that they would bring up, they'll walk you through their experience in the military, which is kind of exciting and get you into it.
Right.
Then they walk you through the principle, then they walk you through how it applies to the business world. And, taking it in those three steps, the way that they present it, it just really struck a chord with me. And for the first time, I was kind of able to understand why the things are important and simplify it down to where, you can actually communicate it with other people or kind of reflect back on yourself and see the things that you're doing that you need to improve upon and kind of self-reflect. And I think that's really what did it. And once I saw how, it captured my attention, I mean, I have it on Audible, so I listen to it to and from work as well. And I'll do it about once a month. I'll just put it on and let it play. And man,
Really?
it humbles you immediately. Like the things that I am blowing way out of proportion or worrying about, or, and it mainly makes you self-reflect on yourself as a person and stop blaming other people for stuff that goes wrong, and taking the ownership of yourself to say, what could I have done to make this not happen? Or what could I have done to be a better leader, to not let the people that follow me make the mistakes that they make? Or, where have I made a mistake, to let them be in a position to make that mistake? Because at the end of the day, it's all on you as the leader.
Right.
It doesn't matter who makes what mistake. It is your mistake when they make a mistake. And that's the humbling part of it.
That's major. Me as a follower and an aspiring leader, like, I just think about if I had somebody leading me that if I messed up, they honestly took the responsibility, because I've had a coach be like, it's my fault that y'all didn't do this. But we could tell, like, he was just saying that. So, but to honestly have somebody say, all right, I didn't do so and so and so and so to help put you in a better position to execute. And when you first told me about this book, I got it on Audible too, because I'm an Audible king. And I was going down to Florida to play flag football. It was the first game we were down there. And I looked at a guy and I said, "You good?" Just on the route that he was supposed to run. He nodded and said, "Yeah." We ran the route. He runs the wrong route. Because he ran the wrong route, neither one of us was open. We both ended up in the same spot. And I started to fuss at him and yell. And I said, I should have told him exactly what route, or asked him to tell me what route he had. And in the middle of me yelling, I said, "You know what? That's my bad. I should have made sure that you knew for sure." And that was just from the 4 hours I drove down listening to the book. So I saw immediately how effective the concepts were, and then getting into the stories made it hit a little harder once I got through it. So to dive into one of the chapters, and it was one that it actually it was my thought when I first started reading it. And they said, there are no bad teams, only bad leaders. Like, to me, I'm like, you got to have bad teams. But what does that mean to you?
I mean, really, it's when I think of it from the aspect of, having trained and mentored people as they come up, you have all kinds of people from different walks of life with different abilities when you get them. Mm-hmm. And, it's really easy to sit back and say, like, oh, if you don't understand how to do this in the first 30 minutes, because I've explained it to you the way that I explained it to the last person that I trained, but you don't get it, it's your fault for not getting it. And this just isn't going to work out.
Yeah.
It seems like that is the go-to response that people have, and instead you have to come from the position of, how can I adapt my leadership style to lead this individual person? Because everybody's different. Everybody has a different learning method, a different way things have to sink in from them, a different perspective on life in general. Right. And you have to tap into that. And it's your responsibility as a leader to tap into that and help them grow. It's not about just shedding off information and have it be like, here's the cliff notes on a successful career. And if you can't pick it up by reading the cliff notes, then
you're going to be a failure.
You. Yeah. It's about setting people up for success and finding the way to help them, not the way that you would help 15 other people, but them.
Yeah.
And that's the real challenge of being a leader. And it's what seems to fall by the wayside a lot.
Had you read this book when we first met? And this was 2015, summer of 2016. Had you read this book?
No, I had not. No.
I asked that because what you just explained is what I felt. I was this African American kid came from North Carolina A&T with an electrical engineering degree, football player, and it felt like you came to where I was. Never been on a construction site. And it felt like immediately you came to where I was. We pulled out the highlighters. We walked the site daily. Like all that stuff was like, I remember it and I cherish it because it was enlightening to me. And it showed me that you cared about, it felt like you cared about me, not just this intern is here, so he's got to do this. It was like, I care about you and your progression as a person, as well as a future construction manager.
And, you know, you guys may not believe me when I tell you that, like, I want every one of you to do better than I have done, or to learn as much as you can, or if I can shed some knowledge to help you not make some of the mistakes that I made, or, you know, and I'm still learning too. Everybody's still learning.
Yeah.
So if we can all learn from each other, and yeah, I'm happy as all get out when I see somebody, you know, take something that I've told them, or even if I did something wrong and they learned from it that way and they don't make that same mistake.
Yeah,
Man, that makes my day. You know, that's really what gets me through the day, because everybody has to have something to look forward to go to work. And to me, it's, you know, trying to help other people, because I had a really strong mentor when I was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I still think back every day on stuff that he taught me. And I've actually had a few, and some are he, some are she. But the things that they instilled on me, and the things I was able to pick up from them, and the lessons I was able to learn from their mistakes or their successes, really got me where I am. And it's when you have the ability to do that and to pick up from other people and not necessarily having to make the mistake yourself.
Yeah,
it really helps. I mean, it gets you a lot further, a lot faster.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you that I felt it. But one thing that kind of stuck out to me, and then it rolls into another chapter, is, have you ever had a big ego? Because I'm a football player, and like it's almost intrinsic to have. You have to fight it. You're gonna have an ego because every day is a literal fight against the man in front of you, the man next to you. You're fighting for your position. You're trying to make sure everybody sees you because you got to be seen to be kept. Like, did you ever have an ego? Because I've never felt it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And it's always a battle. I mean, it's one of those things that, and that's when I say, that's why I listen to the book so much, because it will wipe the ego right out of you.
Yeah.
So every time I sit there and think like, man, you know, they're making us do this and they're making us do that, and there's just no reason behind it, and it's just stupid. And then I start to, you know, read the book or listen to the book, and it's like, maybe I'm the one who's stupid, because I'm not taking the time to say, like, why are they wanting us to do this, or why is this, and should they explain the why up front? Yes. But as a follower, I should also need to know the why and strive to understand the why, and be asking the questions that I need to ask to understand if it's not presented to me. So it's the whole extreme ownership thing can be a little misleading. You know, a lot of people think, well, if you take responsibility for everything, then it's just always your fault and nothing's ever anybody else's fault. Well, that's not really, it's misleading, right?
Elaborate on that, because that's something that I had to deal with thinking through during this through this book.
Yeah, and when you read the second book, The Dichotomy of Leadership, it goes into that a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's about everyone taking responsibility for themselves. And even though, let's say that, you know, I'm the project manager on a job and you're maybe the assistant project manager on the job, and, you know, I assign you a task to do, or you have a task that you just know that you have to do, and you don't get that task done, right? Well, I, as a leader, if I took full ownership of that and took all the ownership of that, I would end up just going and doing that task, right? Because I know it needed to get done. I'm just going to do it because it's mine. I own it. I now
Yeah.
control everything on the job. I'm now micromanaging everyone and not letting you have the freedom to kind of learn and grow and make mistakes and do it differently than I would necessarily do it. I mean, there's something to, being able to let stuff go. As a leader, I had a lot of trouble with this. I still do.
If there's ever been a knock on Mike, that is probably the one.
Yeah, definitely so. But being able to give ownership to other people, but at the end of the day, I still own it. So like if my boss comes to me and says, why didn't this get done? Is the answer, Wallace didn't do it and I told him to, but it just didn't get done and it's all his fault. And that's it. No, I didn't get it done because I didn't make sure that Wallace got it done. But at the same time, Wallace has ownership of it too.
Right.
So Wallace knows he didn't get it done. And what can he do to fix it? And how can we make sure that we communicate in a way that, what are the reasons behind it? It's not that you just didn't want to do it and you just said, oh, I'm not going to do it because it's not important. And most of the time there's a reason.
Yeah.
And what was I not doing to support you in a way that you were able to do what you needed to do? That's kind of did I confuse it?
no, actually, cause I'm that's amazing. Cause I put myself as a follower and I want to be a leader and I'm a leader in some areas, but a lot of areas in my life right now, I'm still a follower. But I'm like, to me, if I had a project manager, a leader, somebody to say what you just said, to me, that tells me that we're in this together. And that we're not operating in these silos where I just do this, you just do that. We're actually a team. And then that brings me closer and it actually builds my loyalty. So I'm like, I might stay up tonight because I got to get this done to make sure that Mike don't look bad in this ops meeting. But if we're in our silos, I'm like, well, it's actually not my job. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. I might ask, hey, Mike, did you put that forecast report if we had that connection? But if not, I'm like, it's his job. It just brings that connective energy for that teamwork for us all to succeed instead of just you do that, I do that, and then that's it. And then at some point there's a gap and then the bridge falls.
Right.
So, no, I give you 100%.
That brings you right to cover and move, right?
That's
another chapter.
Well, keep on rolling. We'll cover and move.
So, what you just said, we're all a team. If the team fails, everybody fails, right? Yeah. There is no the job lost money and was behind schedule, but I got the submittals done on time and that's what I was responsible for. So obviously I had a successful job. No, the job was unsuccessful. So everybody's unsuccessful. And, ego gets in the way of that a lot. You'll see people starting to butt heads and, they'll just do stuff in spite of each other.
Yeah.
When in actuality, they're both getting hurt because, if a superintendent's over here like, well, I don't care how much money we spend, I'm just going to do it because it's easier for me and we'll get the job done faster.
Yeah.
Right. And the PM's over here like, well, he's just spending all this money and he can't do this and that and the other. And, they're fighting each other. Yeah. That is not going to be a good job. But if you can come together as a team and, learn how to cover for each other. And I don't mean not tell on each other to mom and dad kind of thing. It's a, realizing that you're in it together. Everybody's got to succeed as a team. Everybody's got to pull their own weight. And when you do that, and when you can get everybody on the same page that everybody's in this together, you'd be amazed at how much smoother everything goes and how much more willing people are to jump in and cover. If man, the superintendent's caught up over here, he's got to do this. So I'm going to jump in over here and help him, or I'm going to, run this meeting because he can't be in there. He really needs to be out here with this pour. So I'm going to jump in and cover this. And maybe, he's saying, man, I've looked at the budget and we're really over budget on labor. So I'm going to scale back because I want it, I want to
Yeah.
help out the PM because he helped me on something else,
Right.
and just learning how to, cover and move, fill in the gaps, figure out where your team is lacking and try and support one another to make it successful. I mean, you've probably heard me say it before. I cannot stand people to say that's not my job.
Yeah.
Like it's just like nails on a chalkboard to me, because your job is to make a project successful.
Right.
That's it. Period. There is no, well, I only do RFIs and submittals and that's it. And the rest of the stuff I just don't even care about. No. I mean, what happens if I get hit by a bus? Somebody's got to step in there and fill the gap. Or what if the superintendent gets hit by the bus? Somebody's got to be able to step in and know the process of running the job site. And the more exposure you can get with that, and the more that you actively go and say, hey, how can I help you do this? And how can I help you do that? And it not only endears you to that person and builds leadership capital with them, but it also helps you learn, because you're being exposed to something that you may not have been exposed to.
Yeah. And I've been that person on my last job, 2 jobs ago, where I felt like, and it was really just the team dynamic, honestly. Thinking back after reading this book, it felt like, look, I did my submittals. I sent in every RFI. I followed up on it. I did my job. It's on you to manage the money, or it's on you to manage the field, or it's on you to do whatever. But that was just the environment we had. But I actually had a very good superintendent who kind of helped pull me out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Flake.
Amazing. Oh, absolutely.
Amazing superintendent. And he really kind of just like integrated. Like it started out with, he would write some RFIs. I didn't know technically how to phrase it or what was really going on. He would write it, and then I would read it and I would gain better understanding. But the fact that he took time to write it out instead of just saying, hey, this happened, send it to the architect. Now I'm spending an hour and a half trying to understand the problem, then just spending 30 minutes to write the problem. And him being able to do that, and then we could talk about it. We can go out on site and look at different situations. Like him bringing me out of that mentality of like, this is my silo, was phenomenal. And I hope that every job that I go to, they feel the presence of Carey, Mr. Flake, whatever job I go to, because I want to take that everywhere. I want everybody to be able to experience that we are a team. We're here together. I got your back. You got my back. We're going to make this a successful project. And I think that's like, when I got to our company, like I look for, what is my job description in every position I've been in. I've been like, okay, what is my job description? What am I supposed to do? And I heard you say successful project. I was like, so that just means whatever it takes. Whatever it takes on this job. If you got to drive a owner's meeting and you've never done it before, you got to do it because the PM is sick and out. I had a project manager who was sick for 3 months, and I had to step in as a project engineer. So just that concept of like, we're a team and we're going to win. Whatever you got to do. If you're a corner and you got to play receiver this week, or you're a tight end, you got to go play linebacker this week, whatever it takes. We're here to do that together. And this book really exemplifies that and brings it out. And I like the military stories, and then bring it to the business world. It's really captivating. But this is we're going to get to the end, and I'm going to say you need to go read this book. But for real, if you listen to this, go read this book. It really brings out a lot of principles that are going to help you as a person, but the teams, the family that you have, everything that you're involved with is going to help propel it.
That it is. I mean, it really was like eye-opening, and still is every time. I mean, it's amazing how much you forget just, going through life and everything. And it starts to get kind of faded in the background. And then once you refresh yourself on it, it like changes your whole perspective again every time. like I was listening to it on the way home today, and it was like, man, yeah. Check the ego, leave it at the door. It's the number one killer of teams. And, just the biggest thing that if you had to wrap it all up into one message, I think it's, stay humble and just be a team player. And you can pretty much do anything at that point. I mean, very few jobs have I ever been on where we had a really good team synergy. We all got along, and even if we had issues personally, like when it came to work, it was, we got this. And, I know my role, your role, and we can, kind of dance around if we need to fill in the gaps for each other. But, very rarely does a project do poorly when you have a good team dynamic.
Yeah.
On the flip side, most projects that do not have a good team dynamic don't do too well. Even if they don't lose money, they don't make what they could have made.
Right.
Because you spend so much time and effort just fighting each other for nothing. Yeah. You both got the same job to make the project successful, and you're just arguing over the way that you do it. And sometimes it takes somebody to just step back and say, all right, you know what? I know I like doing things my way, and I think my way is, the way that we need to do it, but I'm going to have an open mind. Even if the other person's not, I'm going to be the bigger man, and I'm going to step back and say, well, let's think about doing it the other way. And bounce some ideas off each other on, well, what would that mean? Would we be able to do it faster? What problems could we run into? Maybe we should do it your way, and kind of let that control go. And the moment that you kind of step back and say, and once again, for me, it was really, really, really hard to do. But the moment that you step back and kind of say, all right, here it is. I've showed you the kind of parameters to work within. Mm-hmm. Where out of bounds is, and go. It's amazing. To see someone just pick it up. And once they really feel like this is my baby, they'll just take off, and it'll just work itself out. And all the stuff that you were so worried about, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? It works itself out. And if mistakes happen, it's a great learning experience. And, obviously there's, jobs that have enough money to absorb mistakes, and there's jobs that don't. But one way or another, as a team, we'll figure it out, and we'll, cover and move. And, I'll figure out a way to do something different over here, or maybe the superintendent figures out a way to do something different over there, where we can, make up for it and not play the blame game on who made the mistake or why, or, but think about, from this point moving forward, what can we do? And we won't do that again because we've learned from it.
Right.
But now, how do we move forward? Let's quit worrying about what happened to get us there. Let's worry about how we move on from that.
So we've been talking about like the on-site team, maybe like 4 or 5 people, that dynamic. And I think, like, thinking about what you just said, and then thinking about a large company,
mm-hmm.
like where you got 200 people, what concept or how do you create what you just said, that synergy on this team? How do you try to create that synergy across an entire company? How do you create a culture that breeds that?
Well, I mean, the more people, the more difficult it is,
Definitely.
And the less that people interact with each other on a daily basis, I think the harder it is to really get to know somebody to the point where, you can really effectively do that.
Yeah.
But as long as you can kind of control your sphere of it, and, the more that you can lead up the chain, and kind of they see what your team is doing and they see that things are going well.
Yeah.
You know, and especially if other teams are struggling and stuff like that around the company, they're going to notice that. And they're going to say, well, what's going on over here? And then you can start to kind of feed information up there. And once they catch on to, well, you know, it's working over here, I think there's something to it.
Yeah.
Usually it has a way of working its way up and kind of becoming a culture. And, you know, ownership or extreme ownership or, you know, leadership, whatever you want to call it, you don't have to be the coined phrase of extreme ownership, but it's very contagious. And once you have seen it in action and you've had kind of a mentor or a boss or even a subordinate that has that mentality of, you know what, that's my fault. I'm responsible. It doesn't go any far beyond me and I'm going to fix it. And they actually do. And they take that mentality of whatever it takes, I'm going to make it work. You know, that's contagious. And the next person's like, man, you know, they've really got their stuff together and that's cool. I want to be like that. Yeah. So then they start to reflect on that and it just kind of spreads out from there. And before you know it, you know, it's the culture.
It's the culture. And I think that's exactly what happened when I met you. And then also what I just talked about with Carrie is like, you all impose your extreme ownership, extreme leadership upon me. And then I felt how invigorating it was, how exciting the potential could be. And now I go and I'm on a different project now and I show them what it looks like. And it just kind of breeds as projects grow out. But I also think that they always tell you leadership is from the top down. So the concept of decentralized command, to me, that's a top down theory. So what does that look like in a large company?
Well, it's kind of getting back to the, you know, decentralized command is all about giving ownership down the chain. You know, I mean, it's making sure that you have the people trained in the core of it, you know, letting them know the boundaries and then letting them kind of run their own show. I mean, and I'm not saying like Wild West. I'm not saying go out and, you know, oh, whatever you guys want to do, just go do that. Right. But if you have done a good job at explaining kind of the core values of the company and, you know, what is our mission? What are our marching orders for this is the way that we want to do it. And maybe not procedurally, but at least from a philosophical standpoint, right?
Right.
You know, we are going to be that company that comes in here and, you know, gives the owner what they need or make sure that they know that we're here to support them. And we're not going to fight with the architect and engineer. We're going to be there to support them and help them as well, because it's a team. You know, that's at least in our business. And I know that, you know, it gets into other businesses as well, but in our business, it becomes very much like little silos fighting against each other. That's always kind of been the construction model. Everybody's mad at the contractor, right? The architect fights the contractor, the contract fights the architect, the owner's fighting the contractor's fighting the owner.
Right.
It's not a good way to do business. And so if you really step back and say, you know, hey, I want to bring everybody into the team. My team doesn't stop with just the 5 people on the job.
Right.
The team is everyone involved in the project, right? I mean, the architect failing at their tasks can be just as detrimental to our company's success as our company failing at doing a task, right?
Right. Yeah.
So the more that we can kind of reach outside the lines and help them and help the owner in any way that we can. And it's going to take some time to build that trust with them, to let them know that, there's no angle behind it. You know, the angle is we all want to be successful, right?
Yeah.
And it's getting more and more like that, especially when you get into, you know, CM at risk projects or, you know, design build projects or integrated delivery type projects where it's really a team from the beginning and you're working together to accomplish a goal,
right?
It's a lot easier to establish that dynamic. But we're really getting to an age where you can't just tell people, you go do it or else, you
Not
really
at
have
all.
to connect.
Yeah.
Because they'll just go do something somewhere else.
Or they'll fight you tooth and nail for the rest of this relationship, and then there will be no further relationship.
Yep. And I know that we've talked about this too. It's a small world,
man.
And the more that you burn bridges with people, you will run into them again. And sometimes it's not in the same, position that they were in. So, where they may have been a drywall sub that, really just got down on, and, you didn't help them. You just, there's a time to take the boot off of somebody's throat when they're hurting, and try and help them up instead of just saying, it's your fault. You're going to fix it.
Yeah.
Because later on, 15 years down the road, you may be interviewing for a company and they've changed career paths. And now you look across the table and that's the person that you're trying to get a job from. And they remember.
Yeah.
So
a big one I think of is like commissioning agents. Like commissioning agents all started out as, I'm not thinking of mechanical commissioning. They all started as mechanical contractors. They had their own company. They worked for somebody. And if you were that contractor, that project manager that beat them down, now I got you. I honestly have your last paycheck in my hands at all times during this project. You think about that, and they have influence on the owner because the owner trusts them to do the commissioning, to check all their systems. So you just think I'm just handling this sub, but you're handling a person that is going to evolve. And one day, like you said, it's a small world. You might cross paths, and they might control your destiny.
Oh yeah. But I mean, getting to the, what does it look like in a large company? It takes the right kind of people, and not everybody is going to be bought in, right? Some people are going to resist it. Some people just can't let go of the ego, or can't let go of it's my way or the highway, or, looking for somebody to blame. And there's not really a whole lot of ways to get around that if they aren't willing to kind of come around to being a team player, right?
Yeah.
But then that's also the time that the company, hopefully the people up at the top are, we want to be a successful team mindset, and why wouldn't they be, right? And there's a time when, once you've tried for so long and you've tried to train and you've tried to mentor and you keep getting like resistance, or that you have to make the call of saying, well, what, maybe this fit just isn't going to work. And that happens, right? I mean, it may not be that they're just a bad person or they're a bad employee. It's just that they don't fit within the culture of the company. Everywhere that I've been has had a very distinctly different culture. And different people are going to thrive under that culture, but you may not be feeling it and you need to move on to the next thing. And that's fine. You may end up moving on and then figuring out, well, I actually did like the culture over there. I just didn't realize it. And then circle back around later. And that happens too, right? I mean, it's, it all comes back to that not burning bridges thing, because you never know. You could go change companies, and then before you know it, the boss you had at the other company is now coming over to your new company and is your boss again. So it's interesting.
They actually have and this is probably the one story we'll actually get into. There was a story where there was a company who had to make a decision. They were trying to make a decision on one or the other. We're going to call them project managers. They didn't feel like they could let both of them go, but both of them were feuding. So they were creating this negative synergy amongst the company. And Jocko and Leif came in and they challenged the owner. Look, if neither one of these guys want to fit in the culture you're trying to create, let them both go. And the owner just was completely flabbergasted because they're both good at what they do. But like you said, if they're not engulfing or living out the culture we're trying to create, then what they're going to do is be cancer and infect the people around them, infect the environment around them, which is going to deteriorate the culture altogether. So their recommendation was let them both go. And sometimes it's better to cut the foot off if it's got gangrene and go get a prosthetic or find some other means.
That's a great analogy, right? Because you don't want the infection to spread. Sometimes it's better to lose a leg than to die.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the whole thing, right? I mean, it's part of you letting go of the ego and kind of being the one who will step back and say, all right, let's just make this work. Those are not the people who create tension in a company.
Right.
You know, so if you can always be the person that is willing to say, all right, I may not agree with it, but we're going to give this a shot and we're going to figure out a way to make it work. I don't think you have too much to worry about when it comes time to say, well, who is causing this rift in the culture? Or who is creating this little silo over here of, you know, people who don't, you know, conform to the company's beliefs? You're going to be the one that they say, hey, you know, you don't really complain that much. And when you do complain, I don't want to say complain, but you give feedback, right?
Right.
Because there's a difference. There's a difference between just endless complaining and like, hey, we have a problem here and I'm trying to tell you about it. Right. And sometimes we get so caught up in our emotions and kind of the pain we're feeling individually or professionally, or we've got so much stress on us because we're overworked or whatever else, that we kind of forget that. Yeah. And you got to kind of hit that reset button of saying, you know what, I'm being egotistical and this is not the Mike show. This is the, you know, company show. And I'm not thinking about the mission. I've now reverted back to my mission, you know, of my personal success. And that's not the same thing as saying, all right, how do we succeed as a team? That's saying, how do I succeed? And that's, if the team succeeds, the individual success will come.
I completely agree with that. And I try to carry myself. And I hope if you see something different, you call me out, because the accountability is something that I think we all need in every stage of our lives, especially from people that have been in the spaces that we're in. They know what it is going to take for you to continue to grow. And if they call you out or let you know, I mean, there's a way to do it, but we need to know. So that's one thing I appreciate about you, because you'll be like, no, that's probably not the best way to do that. And it's no sweat off my brow, as they say. It's just somebody with more experience, more knowledge, kind of helping me stay in the parameters, the lane that's going to help me continue to progress.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I am by no means perfect. So basically what I try and do is just tell people like, all right, I won't tell you exactly how to do it. I'll tell you, this is what's gotten me in the past, or this is something that, you know, if you know, sit back and try and look at it from a different perspective and reread that RFI. Right. When you read that RFI, would it make you mad if somebody sent it to you? You know, because you were in a hurry when you wrote it and it sounds kind of snobbish. Yeah. You know, a lot of it's just in delivery and how people receive you. You can say the same thing in 3 different ways and get 3 totally different responses, you know? Yes. And unfortunately in business, you know, a lot of stuff has gone to email. You know, when you're sitting there talking to somebody and you can see their face and you're picking up on all those visual cues of, you know, the hidden emotions behind what they're saying. Right. It's a lot different than reading an email. Right. Right. Because when you're reading an email, you could take it all kinds of different ways, and they may not have meant it that way
at all.
But you think now that they're a butthole, and what are you going to do? You're going to get mad, and then you're going to start responding, and then they're going to take it poorly. And before you know it, you've developed a bad relationship with someone you've never talked to.
Right.
When you could pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm just wanting to give you a call about the email, don't come off the wrong way, but, hey, it didn't sound right, or, but just try and understand where they were coming from. And sometimes they are coming from that direction.
Exactly.
But most of the time they were just in a hurry, or,
and they
hey, I was typing on my phone real quick. I didn't really think about how it was going to sound. And just kind of keep that in check.
I think that's exactly the reference of you, the reference to have somebody like you holding us accountable in something in that nature, or any other space that we're growing as professionals and as leaders, is extremely valuable. And I hope we can stifle, us as followers can stifle our ego to say, hey, he's actually trying to help me. Because the fact you said RFI, I don't know if you remember, but when I was an intern, you asked me to write an RFI, and I wrote it, and you critiqued the heck out of it. And I wrote it again, and you critiqued the heck out of it again. I started to get frustrated, but I was like, I read some of your RFIs that you were sending. I was like, no, there's a science to this. And then I don't know if you'll remember this, when I started working for the company I worked before I worked for the one we work for now, I sent you an email and said, or a text message and said, I appreciate the way you wrote your emails or your RFIs, because I'm seeing the fruits of that accountability in my communication now. And that was 3 years later. So
and look, that's because I've screwed up enough stuff to where I didn't want you to make the same mistakes as me. I have written some golly whoppers of some RFIs before that really made people mad.
Yeah.
And then they came to talk to me about it. And it wasn't.
And you got their
a
visual
good thing.
cues.
Right. So being able to accept that, as graciously as you did, and take it and learn from it, that's what extreme ownership's all about. You're realizing that, we don't always have the answer, and our way of doing it's not always the best way of doing it, but being able to check yourself and say, let me go see what they're doing over here. Let me see what they're doing over there. Just gathering as much information as you can, and using that to kind of guide you through the different things, and never being stuck in one way, but being able to evolve and change as you need to, and being kind of fluid. It really does a number, when it, talking about trying to get in the owner's good graces, or the engineer architect's good graces, or anybody, like with any industry, right? Because they know that they can come to you and ask you for something, and you're not going to get mad. You're going to try and figure out a way to make it work. Like when we do a school, and we've got this logistics plan that has 80 hours of effort poured into it, and we've thought about everything that affects us as a company, and we know what way we got to come in and what way we got to go out, and what time of day we're getting this and that and the other. And then the school comes up, it's like, hey, we're doing SAT testing, and you can't make any noise for the next 7 days. Right. Well, okay, that totally changes everything.
Wow.
But there's some people who would just say, well, the hell with it, and I'm going to do it anyway. And but those aren't the people that they're going to come and ask for help, or recommend on the next job, because they didn't make it easy. But when you're that person that says, you know what, all right, you guys are the important thing here. We're building a building for you. And you can step back and say, all right, let's rework this thing and find a way to make it work. Because 9 times out of 10, there's a way to make it work. Sometimes there's not, but 9 times out of 10, you could change stuff around, or you could, hey, let's flip some shifts, or, for the next 5 days, let's stagger shifts and I'll come in late or whatever. And we'll get through this. And, that builds up. We talk about leadership capital. You build leadership capital with your team, but you also build it with everyone you interact with. Right. So you'll see there's people probably that you trust more than others just because of your past interactions with how they do things, that you don't necessarily look at things as hard when they do it as you do with someone else who you have a bad experience with. Right.
Yeah.
So you give them more latitude. It's the same way when you have people that work for you, when you know that, Wallace is going to put 110% into everything that he does. And I know that he's going to look at it and self-critique it and everything. If I need to just let something go and let him handle it, and I've got to go cover over here, I know that you're going to handle it because that's just how you are.
Yeah.
But if you were a complainer and you whined and, you always fighting on everything that we're trying to do, now I got to go look at every single thing that person does, because I know that it's not going to be right, or it's not going to be well thought out, or they're not going to put forth the effort. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. It's two things that you said, and I'm going to lead us to closing. You said that there's always, nine times out of 10, there's a way to do it. I had a mentor when I was in football, and he used to say, find a way. As I've learned in construction, there is a way. There's always a way to find a resolution, a solution to whatever problems that pop up sporadically or the ones you prepared for. There is a way, but you sometimes have to take the time. You have to reduce your ego to be able to open your mind to find them.
And how you do that is you come into it with a good plan.
Yeah.
A well thought out. I've thought of the contingencies. I've thought of the things that could go wrong. And I, in the back of my mind, know that there's a 20% chance we're going to hit this, or there's, this could pop up or that could pop up. And the more of those contingencies that you plan for and you have in the back of your mind, and you kind of have already thought of a way out, even if it's not that problem that pops up, it makes that problem easier to solve, because very rarely do you only have one problem to deal with at a time. You've probably got like 5, right?
Yeah.
So, but 4 of them, or maybe even 3 of them, you've
already
got that covered, because you thought of that 6 months ago, and you've kind of been expecting that to happen, right?
Yeah.
So you've figured your way out. So now you're down to 2, right? It's the people that don't plan that now have 5 problems to deal with at once.
Right.
That's a real problem.
Yeah.
Because now you've gone into shutdown mode, and you just can't process anything, and there's no use even talking to you, because you're probably just putting in your resignation. That's
funny. Yeah, you gotta go in. I always looked at it as fire drill mode, and you never present your best self or the best solution in a fire drill mode. When you got 5 problems that actually need your attention, like you said, the preparation is what really can help, I guess, contain some of the issues that are going to come. Like, if you're prepared for something to go wrong and it goes wrong, now you know how to respond to it instead of the fire drill reaction.
And that, it all comes from experience. And I'm not just talking about personal experience. I'm talking about, you go out and you ask everybody, every single moment should be a learning moment, right?
Yeah.
When you're going out in the field with Carrie, it should be, hey, what problems have you ever had with it? We may not be having this problem now, but you're doing a CMU wall. What do I need to look for? What problems can come up? What have you been snake bitten by in the past? And I guarantee you, he's probably got 50 stories of different things that have happened. And, when you can develop a relationship with a person like that has so much good information right up here, and all you've got to do is just get it out.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can then take that like it's your own experience and apply it to everything you do. So you know, the more people that you work with like that, that are really experienced and actually will take the time to be a mentor,
Yeah.
you know, the faster you can learn. And when you may have just throwing a number out there, let's say somebody has like 5 years of experience, right? But they actually in their head have 20 or 30 because they've picked the brains of people who've been doing it for 50 years on every project they've been on. And they can then take that and implement it into their own life. You know, it's the second best thing to living through it, I guess you could say. But
man, look, I think the whole conversation has been phenomenal to me. I think like we even transitioned into a whole, like we left the book, and I'm sorry, the book is amazing. But this last little section, I promise, if anybody is starting a career or young in a career, you hear like ask questions, because people, I hate to say it, but people are semi-conceited. Mm-hmm. They love the things that they've done, and they want to tell you about the things that they've done. But see, for you, there's so much you can learn from the things that they've done. So it's not a negative conceited. It's the experience that I have. I want to give it to you. And I hope Carrie Flake hears this. You gave me opportunity in a career path that I had no clue in. Mike, you ignited the fire, and Mr. Flake, he gave me some wings to he
doused it in gasoline.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. But I'm gonna bring us to a close. This has been an amazing conversation with you, Mike. Like I said, I'm not even, look, I'm not in the house that I'm in. I'm not in the space that I'm in life without that internship that I had with you, because it gave me vision and sight to something that like I might want to try to do this. And like you said, just go after it after that. And latching on to very good leadership, and trying to grow into a leader of my own has really helped me continue to grow. So I appreciate you, what you've done for my life. I appreciate you for stepping on this podcast and talking to the people, because they need to hear this. I'm telling y'all, folks, y'all need to hear this, because it can transform you, your family, your work life, your work family, your team, any organism that you're with. These concepts that we just went through in Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, it can really impact and change your life. So, Mike, I like to always give my guests the last word, and it can be about this book. It could be about something you've got going on, a business you've got going on. We want to promote everybody in more lanes than just the work that they do during the day. You got anything for the people?
I mean, really, I just want to kind of throw it back to you, man. I mean, it's watching you grow has been awesome, because when I first met you, you really didn't know what you wanted to do. Nope. You know, you were coming to work for a construction company just because you had an opportunity, and, you know, you hadn't decided yet. And you were still, you know, do I want to go back and play football? Do I not? And of course you ended up doing that. But all of the things that, you know, you've been able to accomplish just because of the sheer drive and determination that you have, and just kind of the perseverance that you have. I mean, I won't get into exactly how old you are, but you're still relatively young, right? But you're already an author. You're a podcast host. You're a construction professional. You've played football. I mean, what else is there, man? I mean, you know, how do you find the time?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean,
48 hours in a day, right?
Yeah. It really is just gratifying to see somebody that, you know, came into my life not that long ago, but it was a little while back, right? But yeah, in this short time, the amount of progress that you've made, I mean, it's phenomenal, man. And I just want to congratulate you for it. And if I've been any little piece of that, then it really means a lot, and just gives me that little something to make it through one more day. Anyway, you know.
I love it, man. I truly appreciate it. I appreciate you. Acknowledging, and witnessing me and feeding me in my growth. I look forward to the continued relationship, the continued growth together. And I look forward to people's responses to this video, because I'm telling y'all, like, any position that you're in, this conversation right here can change your life, literally. So I'm a sign us out. This has been The Huddle with Mike Sims, looking at extreme ownership from Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. It's been love. Peace.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. On the top floor. On the top floor. On the top floor.